Welcome to my beginning watercolor tip number 12, how to make mud. I'm sure when most of us have started out in watercolor, we've demonstrated the uncanny ability to make mud when we don't want it. The truth is, what we normally refer to as mud is nothing more than neutral, and neutrals are very important in painting and in watercolor. Positioning a bright color near a neutral actually makes it much more vibrant. And when you have a color that you may not want to be quite as vibrant, you can take it more towards a neutral so that it's more natural color, such when painting landscapes and trying to get more natural greens. The raw colors coming out of the tube don't look natural, and by taking the pigment and neutralizing it, you get a much more natural look. The majority of this painting is done with neutral tones that would be called mud on many palettes. However, it's the presence of these neutrals that allow for the other colors to glow. And I know that's all well and good. The times we normally get our neutrals is when we don't want it, and we look at it as mud. So my thinking is that the best way to avoid mud is to understand how to make mud first. That puts you in control of your palette, and when you want a neutral, you understand how to make a neutral, and when you're not looking for a neutral, you know how to avoid it. When you mix colors from opposite sides of the color wheel, also known as complementary colors, in the right ratio, what you end up with is a neutral gray. The colors that I'm going to use for this example are burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. They're on opposite sides of the color wheel and are complementary. And when you mix the two together in the proper ratio, you'll end up with a neutral gray. On the left side of my palette, I'm putting burnt sienna. On the right side, as you may guess, I'm going to put ultramarine blue. So what I have on my palette are two complementary colors, the burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Now I'm putting a touch of the opposite colors underneath each, and this is where I'm going to show how these mixtures react and how you can swing these back and forth between a vibrant color and a neutral. So on the left side, I'm mixing burnt sienna into the ultramarine and adding more ultramarine blue, but I'm mixing the two, and the result is I'm starting to get a neutral gray. So on the left, where I've mixed the two together, I'm getting a neutral gray. Now I'm going to take some ultramarine blue and I'm going to mix it into the burnt sienna on the right. And you can see I'll get the same result. Once I reach the same ratio of the two colors, the two sides will be equal. So this is a point where often people get on their palette and they're like, oh my gosh, I have mud. And again, it's a neutral, which can be very useful, but if you're looking for a vibrant color, it's not going to work. So you can take the paint from your palette and change the ratio back to something that's more favorable. So on the left, I'm starting to swing this color back towards the burnt sienna. And now it's starting to warm up because I'm changing the ratio. And now on the right, I'm going to do the same thing with the ultramarine blue. The more ultramarine blue I add, it's going to start to become the dominant color in this mixture. And it's going to be less neutral, and it's going to swing more towards the ultramarine blue again. So I'm going to demonstrate this one more time. Same mixture. Now I'm bringing ultramarine blue back into the burnt sienna. And you can see I'm getting a neutral gray again. On the right side, I'm going to mix burnt sienna back into the ultramarine blue. And as you can see, I'm starting to get a neutral gray again. And you can vary your neutrals and your color intensity by changing the ratio and controlling your ratio. So you can go back and forth on your palette and revive a color if that's what you want to do, or if it's too bright you can tone it down by going towards a neutral. While I use burnt sienna and ultramarine blue for this example, the same is true for the other colors that are complementary on the color wheel. And if you're not that familiar with the color wheel, it's worth taking a quick look just so you can get an idea of what some of the complementary colors are. When painting landscapes and using greens, one of my favorite mixtures, combinations, is sap green and pyrrole red. It gives me a very nice natural green when I add a little bit of the pyrrole red into the sap green. It takes some of the rawness off and makes it feel more natural. And another example would be purple and yellow. If painting a snow scene, I might take a purple tone, and if I want to tone it down just a bit, I'll add a little bit of yellow ochre, and that takes some of the brightness off and gives me a neutral to play against the brighter purple tone where I want it to. So that's my beginning watercolor tip 12 on how to make mud. Next time you end up with mud on your palette, think about how you might use that to your advantage, or just change the ratio and swing it more towards the tone that you're really after. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you do have any questions, you can always email me at contactrsurowicz@gmail.com.